Welcome to the F+L podcast. Our guest today is Hind Abi-Akar, and I'm your host, Vicky Denton. Hind, thank you for gracing our podcast. It's a real honor and pleasure to be with you today.
I appreciate it, Vicky. Thank you for the opportunity.
So we've known each other for many years, but I've never asked you your background, and I think it would be nice to give our audience a little bit of background of what you do at Caterpillar, and how did you end up in um, taking care of fluids for Caterpillar. Um,
Mhm.
you're kind of a mainstay in the industry, so we just kind of assume we know you, but we've never asked you these questions. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, and all of us have a long path to get where we are. But I am a chemist, and I did my graduate work in the US, and I was organic and biochemistry until my master's degree. Then I switched to material science and coatings, basically electrochemistry for my PhD. And from there, I did a little bit of university teaching. My first job, though, was in Caterpillar. When I started with Caterpillar, I started in the research area, specifically in corrosion and coatings, which is my training. And I did a few years there. And I must say, it's a large company. You have so many opportunities, which I kept my eye on opportunities and on building connections, because you end up working with a whole lot of diverse uh, group of people, the engines, the components, the designers, the simulation, and you learn from all of these. And I grew my work to become issue resolution related to corrosion, and that was great exposure because all of a sudden I have exposure to all sorts of activities within Caterpillar, components globally. You would be working on a transmission one day, on an engine the next, and that was a great learning opportunity. And for this, I'm grateful, and I do have the desire to keep learning. So that worked very well for me. And little by little, I used also these opportunities and connections and ended up joining the fluids group where I learned my way through the fuels and the lubricants and ended up, growing my career in that area.
When did you decide to become an engineer? At what age?
Um, I was always interested in scientific and technical area as long as I remember, since I was very little. And having grown in a family that used heavy equipment and was very mechanically savvy certainly shaped my interests. And I must say also my family was extremely supportive since I was very little. Extremely supportive of me learning the math and the science and being involved in hands-on mechanical work. Um, they encouraged me, they helped me build this interest. And at the time, I must say that I realize now, at that time, girls were not really that encouraged to be in this area. So I think it was maybe an exception. But it certainly, it always felt natural to me, and it always felt that I can certainly grow in this area.
Was it intimidating to work as a woman in a company like Caterpillar that, you're known for your heavy equipment and this is a man's world?
Uh-huh. This is an excellent question, actually, and I started working in Caterpillar in 1995. I think that's a while back, 28 years back. And there were few women in the science area and in the research and in the engineering. I should say that also my training in graduate work, where females are also a minority, helped me probably to be able to navigate and not to be intimidated. There are many times where I was the only woman in the meeting and the only woman on a team. But I think, and I was aware of that, but it was not that intimidating, because I think when you prove yourself that you're capable and it doesn't matter, it becomes normal that you're a female in the room and you're working. Another thing that helped, within few years after I started, there was significant focus from Caterpillar on growing women scientists and engineers. And they focused on us and they highlighted us and our career. And I recall one influential actually event where I was still working in the technical center, which is the hub of Caterpillar research and innovation. And a new vice president was a woman. That was an excellent role model. And it helped me see that that is possible. That's a path that can be taken. So the atmosphere was helpful, although you are working on truly intimidating machines and just really large scale research and equipment.
Yeah. How large is the fluids group in Caterpillar, Hind?
Our group is not too large, but it has been established since, actually, Caterpillar has been active since the late 1930s in designing specific fluids. It was extremely fascinating to me that the first standard engine test for fluids was a Caterpillar test. Based on that, the API started working in that area. And if you look at the categories, for example, Caterpillar has been from CA, CB, CC, CD. We are now in CK. So Caterpillar has been involved. The fluids group is not large, but it's very effective. And they know it's very methodical. We know what we need. We have the right connections to the various engineering groups and engine groups. So we're always connected as a program management and design and new product introduction. The fluids is part of it.
So
So it is
currently,
built into.
yeah. So currently, Hind, how many Caterpillar engine tests are part of the API C service category?
The C service has 5 engine tests, 5 or 6 engine tests.
And how many of those are Caterpillar? They're all Caterpillar? Or?
Sorry, 6 Caterpillar engine tests, and we just obsoleted one, the one MPC. It went obsolete since 2008, but the labs kept running it. We kept supporting it until now. The category has 11 engine tests. The CK, we do have 3 of them Caterpillar, but we do have the other tests in prior categories too. So we've always had engine tests in the categories.
So one of the problems that we're having right now are the old engine tests. They're running out of parts. So what's the situation with Caterpillar tests at the moment? Do you have any tests that kind of have this, end of life type of issues?
The way we support the parts follows what Caterpillar does with our legacy machines. We do have machines that have been and still active in the market 30 years, 40 years. And we do have a system where we can support these machines with parts. And that's one of the big strengths of Caterpillar, having the parts available, making the parts available, and having them globally available. So we treat the standard engine tests the same way. We do a whole lot of activities to keep them up to date. Our concern more is on the effectiveness of the categories. How long do you need to keep supporting a category? The engines are progressing and advancing very quickly, so you need to keep moving the categories forward, and you need engine tests that fit the newer engine designs. So this is more, to me, of a challenge than just supporting an engine. We can keep supporting an engines, but we want to make sure that those engine tests are still effective in discriminating and in testing oils.
So this is a little bit of a intricate discussion that I'd like to pursue a little bit, because we never hear that. How do you keep supporting a test? How many engines or equipment have to be out there for you to continue supporting? Because in Asia, we tend to hold on to equipment far longer than maybe in the West. So is it basically the older equipment you're supporting are in our part of the world, or Africa, or how does that work?
Yeah, and I'm here now in the Middle East, Africa, Asia, Latin America. There are older equipment, and you will be surprised. Some large mining companies also hold on to the older equipment that they know and that are effective. They know how to manage those. So actually, one of the critical things, in my opinion, very critical for the oil categories, is that there is backwards compatibility, even if it's not 100% like the CK4 or the CJ4, it is quite backwards compatible. So even though these are the latest categories, they still can fit the older engines. And that's another solution for not keep carrying on older categories. This built-in backwards compatibility, that is a solution that helps you move on. I think the CI4, the current CI4, needs certainly to remain. You are very well aware of the discussions around CH4. Do we still need it or not? We don't think we need it. CI4 can take care of all of these older machines. CK4 can do that. CJ4 can do that too. So both engine age and category to us are very connected.
But there's a reluctance, isn't it, to basically put an old category to rest? What's the reluctance of? What's the reason for that? Is it more the oil marketers don't want them to go to pasture, or what?
Probably, because they are used to these oils in the market. So there are followers. The customers know this oil. There is always reluctance to move. And remember also something for the large assets being a machine, even an on-highway truck. These are work assets. They are not like automotive industry, where it's almost a luxury, For these, customers are very methodical. If it's protecting my asset and my machine and making it live long, I don't want to change. That's some frame of mind. But also, I think we encourage as OEM, but we're not the only side of this story. The oil companies are the other side, and understanding the market, moving the market, that's a collaborative effort.
So, Hind, you've been in this
Mhm.
job for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
What have been the largest changes you've seen since you joined the Fluids Group of Caterpillar?
Yeah. Um, I cannot say the speed of the change, but I would say the level of change. The level of change grew. The oxidation of the oil, for example, that really took a major step forward. Aeration was a major step forward. So the quality of the oil and oil formulations moved significantly. Another important thing, the emissions regulations. These are progressing very fast and very tight. And that pulled with them the engines that are very sophisticated, extremely sophisticated. There's very little comparison between the engine of today and the engines of 25 years ago. So that sophistication. Additionally, one more thing is the customer expectations. Customers today expect the oil to support the durability of this asset, help it live long, and at the same time, we want long drain intervals. So all of these aspects, customer expectation, emissions, and the sophistication of the engines helped drive much higher level of oil performance.
So, 20 years ago, Hind, um, how different was the expectation? What was the warranty that OEMs gave to what is a typical warranty for an OEM, whether it's Caterpillar or another company, and what is it today? So when the goalposts that have moved since you started.
Yeah. I want to say it's not the warranty, it's more the expectations. Because warranty, like every manufacturer, we can warrant what we make. So we warrant the materials, we warrant the workmanship, we make sure that the machine you buy will work well, and that's the warranty. When it comes to fluids, which are made by another entity, we don't necessarily, we cannot warranty that because we're not privy to know what are these fluids. This is why the very active collaboration between OEMs and oil companies, so that we both design product that works for the engine, it's marketable, can be made by the chemistry companies and the oil companies.
And how do you collaborate? Do you do that basically in a forum like API and ASTM, or I mean, tell us a little bit about what actually goes on. How do you work together so that you can get basically you want to fulfill customer expectations? Sometimes it sounds like it's not that easy. Sometimes your what they want and what you want are opposing each other.
Yes. And that's, I know you say that also from experience and from being there and observing. It is a very complex process. It always starts with the OEMs requesting a category. Why would an OEM request a category? This is a long time. It takes 3 to 5 years for the heavy duty to develop a category. A whole lot of resources and time and effort. We only do that because we feel that either there are new regulations that is generating new engine technologies. So you need new fluids to support these technologies, or in cases, it's just the oil in the market can be improved. And why would it be improved? To satisfy customer expectations, mainly drain interval, protection of the equipment for a very long time. because you invest a lot of these assets. You want them to live as long as you can. So it starts with the OEM defining amongst ourselves, and that's through the EMA, Engine Manufacturer Association. We define amongst ourselves that we really need something new. We need these particular components of the oil to be improved. And typically these are performance. We say we need better wear protection of the components, we need better oxidation protection. And then we take this request to the API forum advisory panel, which has the API oil companies and companies. And of course, the ACC, American Chemistry Council, is involved. These are the additive companies and a whole lot of support. The labs, the ASTM, SAE, all of this, there is support. And we start the negotiations from there. One thing that, having been truly involved in this, whether in a chair position for the lubricant committee in EMA, or even co-chair for the advisory panel, following a very prescribed process absolutely helps, because you have so many steps in this program. You absolutely have to manage these steps one by one, methodically, while at the same time respecting the proprietary information for every member, yet working collaboratively to get a successful product. It has to be effective, meaningful, and it can be marketed globally. So all of these, I believe truly that the process helps drive this absolute complexity and helps drive it to success. The other thing that's probably not clear, it's not written, is the desire to collaborate. I have noticed that significantly. There is a true desire to collaborate, and that really reduces the hurdles, whether it's within OEMs, whether it's within oil companies, within additive companies, the labs. The labs are excellent. I mean, they are there. They are the ones who run the tests. Extremely capable. They support the process. So this whole intricate yet prescribed process does help. It does get us where we are.
So what I'm hearing from you, Hind, is that on the heavy duty side, the current system works.
It is. That's my observation. We have been able to successfully design categories and to have them rather widespread in the market. If there is any exceptions for the widespread, is just very few exceptions.
Now, your target, of course, always aligns with the new emissions regulations. So right now, you're starting work on PC12.
Yes.
So when is the category expected to be ready for licensing?
Mm-hmm. The planned licensing time is January of 2027, which is parallel to the implementation of the emissions controls by the EPA, American Environmental Protection Agency. And of course, there are others. There is the California Air Resource Board and others. And if you see also globally, you will notice that China, India, and other countries are also moving very fast. Europe too, moving very fast into quite similar emissions. So the need is becoming more urgent. I want to say there is one exception for designing a category that is not just for emissions control. The CK4 was only an improvement. After the CJ4 was in the market for 10 years, there were things which we as OEMs determined that can be improved. So the CK4 was more of a improvement of the product. Everything else has been totally driven by emissions.
And usually it takes a long time to develop a category,
Absolutely.
even longer in the heavy duty than in the gasoline light duty.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and like my experience started at the tail end of the CJ4. So it was at the time when tests were done and it was being, put together to, prepared for the market and how do you communicate to customers and so on. The CK4, I was involved from the beginning. It takes about 5 years, 4 to 5 years. Yes.
and having gone through that entire cycle, what's your advice to people who are going to be facing that
Yes.
new category PC12? You're retiring at the end of the month. We're very sad to see that you're leaving us, but you said that you're going to be around as an independent consultant. So that's great news. But tell us a little bit about maybe some perspectives that you've had that normally wouldn't come up in an ASTM meeting, for example. I know you're an officer of ASTM D2 also.
Yeah. Actually, we talked earlier about being intimidated by a process or an environment. That's an area where, being in these meetings where you've never been before, doing an activity that you are very new to, that is rather intimidating. But you need to lean on first understanding the process. It is written. But then leaning on those who are there and listening and learning to the experience of others so that you can actually quickly maneuver and quickly understand what's your role, what you need to do. And there are complexities which you only learn as you go. One of my, I believe, highlights of what I did is the development of the cat oil aeration test. I was involved from the beginning, from the decision internally as a company that we need an aeration test to the full implementation and getting the test into an ASTM procedure. And that was one of the, just to me, incredible experiences. You work with such brilliant people from the labs, from oil companies, because you work as a small working group first to determine all the details. And we do have internally all of these experts and engines who just fascinating to work with for their deep knowledge. And then you put all of this together and you develop a test that is meaningful, that discriminates good and bad, that's repeatable. Yet it is like a C13 engine. These are large engines. We're not talking about small. These are 13-liter diesel engines. So putting that together and developing a test is something that I would absolutely recommend the new people to get involved with. That's how you learn.
So talking about diesel, Hind, what do you think? What do you think the future of the diesel engine is?
Yeah, that's a very that's a question that's on everybody's mind because the energy transition is now possibly the biggest activity that is ongoing for heavy duty engines. And when I say heavy duty, I'm talking also the on-road, the off-road. And within that, there's a huge diversity of applications. So you have the huge mining trucks where diesel remains the highest energy density. But still within that, you can make improvements. You can make auxiliary systems that run not necessarily on diesel. You can support with hybridization, electrification, and a whole lot of site management. which we do have machines at Caterpillar that reduced the amount of work you need to get to the final point tremendously, because we use GPS, we know how to navigate that, all the way to smaller engines, which are very open to use alternative fuels, renewables, alcohols, expansion of the use of natural gas, of hydrogen, hybridization, electrification. I think my view at this point is that there will be diesel engines just simply because of the power of the diesel and the demand on the loads, which diesel can easily fulfill. But in every case, there will be expansion into new renewable low energy fuels, into efficient systems, efficient engines, efficient machine components. You can build efficiency into your transmissions, into your hydraulics, axles, all of that. So it'll be a system where you have a large diversity of fuels.
More challenges.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's I don't know if I'm retiring at a time where the excitement is really high and the anticipation of new areas of innovation is absolutely high. Because remember, if you start a machine now, all of our categories are for diesel fuel. What do you do for hydrogen? What do you do for hybrids? What do you do for electrification? All of these have to become also part of the process, and you have to design the right fluids for them, the right fluids for the efficiency, the right fluids for the durability. So absolutely, there will be expansion.
A second career, perhaps.
Or just for new people, who want to learn all of this exciting area.
Yeah, talking about excitement, how did you juggle your role as a mother and wife and being a career engineer in no less than a place like Caterpillar all these years?
I know. This is a question that will always be, it will never get old. I started my career when my children were very little, and you're always focused on building your career at the same time when you are raising your children and they need you the most. And to me, the ability to juggle, multitask is really important. But I believe what helped me is also understanding my priorities. Understanding your priorities when you are working, that's your focus, and you try to do it as effective, efficient as you can. When you're with your family, you also try to do that, to the best of your abilities. There is always, it is hard work. You are juggling so many balls, and sometimes you drop some. But you learn what's your priority, what is the long-lasting effect, and what's something temporary that you can just do without. And having a support system, having a spouse who absolutely is a team player, and you both are juggling those responsibilities, is certainly helpful. I believe still it is very hard work. And there's always in your mind questions, both.
Do you advise this for a young woman to get into an engineering field, doing the things that you had to do, and a lot of learning, but a lot of juggling and a lot of challenges every day?
I did this because I have passion for it. I cannot imagine myself doing something else. Truly, I can. If you have the passion, if you have the mental capability, sure, absolutely, go for it. The road has been paved by so many successful women. And it's interesting to see within Caterpillar how many vice presidents we have who are women, how many group presidents, and in my career, how many general managers who were women, and they all have families and they have children, and all of us, we trade secrets of, how do you juggle all this? But if this is your passion, if this is your capability, absolutely. I encourage my kids, my daughters to do that.
And what's your one main advice to women who want to follow the path that you chose more than 20 years ago?
Study, really. Be really capable of your field. It's not something that you do at work and come home and it's done. I'm always reading and building my information. Otherwise, you cannot progress. So that's part of it. It's a constant learning. And, while my children are sitting doing their homework, I am at the table with them, working with them and also reading all of the new stuff and all the new things that are happening. I say, don't be too intimidated. If you want to do it, keep studying, understand that it is challenging. Don't walk into it expecting that it's very easy. It is not. And you will give up certain things that, maybe luxuries that, I feel that they're luxuries, a lot of travel, so things like this. No, you're going to have to give up a few things, but the rewards are just amazing.
Any last words, Hind, before we close off?
I really enjoyed what I did. I think the scientific world is women are quite capable. I never thought of myself as, I am a woman working in this area. I'm just a person working in this area. And I truly liked it. I had a passion for it. I think it's doable, it can be done, and it's extremely rewarding. And I should say, Vicky, you are one of these women who are also paved the way. And I think you inspire, and I always look up and say, here's Vicky sitting in all of these really high-level meetings, being extremely involved. So I encourage you also to remain a role model. I think doing something you're passionate about is very rewarding, and I think you do agree, don't you?
Definitely. I think it's more passion than your meetings are so complicated. It goes right above my head, but I think at the end of the day we know what you're doing. It's basically to produce a better product for your customers. And
Sure.
I think that's where the passion really comes in, because
Yes.
those are long, hard days, long meetings, aren't they?
Yes. But another thing that I want to mention last, like in my mind, I am working for the person in the field who is going to use this machine, who is going to use it for something that's development and progress, and who is going to support their family using these products. So to me, that's a deep passion, truly, having grown up in a family that used these machines. So to me, the end user is my guiding light. This is the person I'm serving. Even in whatever level I'm working, whether I am in the meeting or in the lab, research, development, the technical writing, I do a whole lot of technical writing. That's my guiding light. That's my end goal, to make a product that is useful at a fundamental human level.
Well, that's great. It's really a pleasure working with you all these years, Hind, and we look forward to more collaboration in the future with you when you retire.
I do appreciate it, Vicky. I appreciate this time and this opportunity. Yeah, and I'm also looking forward to continuing the work in this area.
Thank you so much, Hind. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks. You too.